Call me back when you can. Bye.
Yo, yo, yo. Cool. Okay, we're back again for another one. So, let's firstly just check a couple of things. Just quickly test that everything's running smoothly. Let me get that. Nice. We're running all good there. Cool. So cool. So yeah, it's 4:45 UK time here. I've just kind of had a little bit of a rest. I've been working today. Been at work since about 6 a.m. this morning till about sort of 2 p.m. Just a standard working day. So yeah, it was nice to finish early and just took a bit of a rest. And now we're back on project stuff. So I'm gonna just give it a second to allow people to potentially roll in. Just make some notes about what we're gonna aim to do here. And again. This is just kind of my lack of organization to an extent, but like I said, also to allow people to roll in, I'll kind of use that as an excuse, I think, to, yeah. Okay, so got some nice beats to accompany us as always. If anyone's interested in the playlist, you can there's a command for that, which is just playlist, and it should send you a link. I hope it's the right one. I'll have to double check that, but I think it is. So that's not done quite yet. Cool. Cool. So that's all good. Let's go to GitHub. Weird. Oh. Oh, my bad. Awesome. So yeah, just as a nice quick update, we've got, so in the repo, on one of the issues listed, which is adding the code of conduct to the file, and as I kind of mentioned in an earlier stream, as this is going to be like a project that I'm open sourcing to allow other people to contribute, code, even design ideas, that kind of thing. I want it to go beyond that. Obviously, it kind of makes sense to have a general code of conduct, because this is kind of more of a community thing that we're building here with these live streams, with the Discord as well. So one thing I noticed that exists in a few other communities that I'm sort of a part of, or at least like to kind of look at, for example, Storybook, that we're using, one of the tools we're using in this. They have a great community from what I've seen, super supportive and helpful, and they have a code of conduct that they have taken from the contributor covenant, and it's just basically like a markdown file of all of it's kind of a statement of the kind of environment that like any sort of I don't know, any kind of organization or team of contributors, whatever you want to call it, like the sort of environment that they'd want to cultivate, basically. And if you're interested in that, that will be in the repository very soon. So we've had, where that kind of comes into what I'm saying is that we've had someone that wants to work on the issue, which is really cool. And the really funny thing is that I'm pretty sure that this is probably the first pull request that I've had, but I haven't actually made one myself. So I think usually the very common way round would be that obviously by the time you're getting pull requests for projects, you've probably already done some yourself, but that's not my case. So it's kind of cool for me. So I'm just going to reply to that quickly, and then we can get going, and hopefully by then, we've allowed enough time for anyone to potentially pop in. Cool. Cool. So that person is assigned, and now we'll sit back and wait for the pull request. So that's kind of like a low priority issue. It's just adding the code of conduct. It's not one of the more urgent things, but it's definitely great to have in there. As we continue to build this out and hopefully get more contributions and more people joining in terms of the community aspect, to just kind of have that code of conduct that we can point people to from Discord, for example. It's a very good example. And that's where I got the inspiration from with Storybook, was that I saw that on the onboarding process in terms of actually joining the repo, you had to read the rules, and I just thought it was really nice that they kind of linked to this actual whole document where you can read up on the sort of values, what's expected and what won't be tolerated, that kind of thing. So that's cool. Right, so I'm actually gonna probably start there. I'll start with issues. Before we even look at what we built yesterday, we'll kind of look at some of the issues that came from yesterday. So I kind of just wrote these up after the stream last night. There's a couple of key issues that we ran into. So one of the main ones being, and this is an accessibility kind of bug that we're getting. I actually didn't get time to look into this, so we'll possibly just be doing this in real time. Hopefully we can find a fix for this. But essentially what was happening was we had like a nav menu, and I was just testing this with I was just tabbing through. So anyone that's curious about sort of checking your accessibility health or the accessibility health of your site, there's obviously many different aspects, but one good place to start is with keyboard navigation, and that's just simply tabbing through and seeing if you can get to the same places that you can get to on a mouse. Basically, it's probably the one of the quickest ways to debug and to check what elements are and aren't receiving focus. And obviously, a lot of the time you don't want your certain elements to receive focus. There's no need for them to, but other times you do, especially interactive elements like buttons and A tags like links. And obviously our nav menu items are links, they are A tags, so they need to receive focus. But the issue was something to do with how we were using Chakra's link component and trying to integrate that with Next link component. And I'll show that in code, so to give a bit more context in a moment. But yeah, we'll be aiming to tackle that today. We might even start with that actually, and just see how we get on. And yeah, another thing. So this one, because I would say the nav menu thing is more towards a higher priority issue. This open graph meta tags, they aren't really, I wouldn't say it's right now anyway, in terms of timing or timeline. It's not exactly a high priority per se, but this is definitely just something, it's more of a consideration. And I was just doing a little bit of reading up on it last night about what open graph meta tags are, and they basically help to they help with how your content is displayed when you share on other platforms. So for example, Twitter or LinkedIn, if you're sharing your site, you can actually have this content that's kind of generated upon you pasting that link. So let's say often when you post things on Twitter, it usually comes up with the image and maybe a heading, some description, and so you can do that kind of thing, which is kind of cool. So we'll be looking into that, but like I said, it's not the highest on our to-do list right now. So we'll see how we get on with the other stuff and maybe come back around to this. So add icon button styling. This is more sort of high priority. This is a design consideration that really should have been taken into account, which wasn't. And so I'm actually sort of looking at, just before the stream, I was starting to just design that out in Figma. I had an idea in my head of what it's going to look like, but I always find it's best just to have that solid design down that we can then refer to. So we'll be doing a little bit of that. So a little bit of designing in the stream as well. But yeah, those are the main things. So design and document our style guide. That's an epic for the project. And I mentioned this in the last video that I'm using ZenHub, building our workspace. Nice. I've also got this really sweet coffee from Costa. It's like some kind of like frappuccino or something. It's nice, but really sweet. Won't be able to have one of these again for a long time. This is our ZenHub, by the way. So this is just it's a very helpful project management tool, especially for when you're working in teams. I'm just using it for this project just to sort of give greater context to the issues that I'm creating. And just because I'm trying to time box this project as well. This is kind of helping me to actually map these issues against like timelines, against sprints, against backlogs. And for me, like, it's just a kind of way, it's just very helpful for me to sort of understand, or to like better like kind of group together issues and say, okay, we're tackling this now, so we need to, you know, be concerned with this right now. And then maybe in the next sprint, then we can do this, you know, that kind of idea. And then just, you know, when I come back to things, maybe, you know, it's been a couple of days since I've worked on stuff, and I'm not entirely sure what I did because I was working late or something, and then I can come back and see, okay, that was in progress, so, you know, we got up to there. We can check what's in review QA, so things like testing, you know, we can know what we're currently testing. And for me, yeah, it just helps with clarity. And what's really cool is that you have this roadmap feature as well, where you can like create timelines. It's taking really long to load today for some reason. I don't know why, but we have a timeline on here, but that's fine. That won't load. So yeah, that's essentially the project management side of things, and what I've been doing around creating issues. And as things keep coming up that are definitely sort of straightforward for people to maybe contribute, I will be adding good first issue, the good first issue tag to it. But do feel free to kind of look at some of the other issues. You know, if you have some knowledge around that, feel more than free to contribute. And obviously there's certain things that are a bit more kind of specific to maybe my vision or goals for this project, where it might not be as easy to kind of contribute to that without there being some kind of conflicting ideas. But usually with that kind of stuff, I'm trying to abstract that away from the issues just so we don't have that problem. So I usually just keep that in my Notion file in like a separate private kind of part of that project, like, I don't know what to call it, like a project sort of central hub, basically. So that's where I'm keeping like a lot of the issues, and I'll actually just show you to give some nice context, and again just to show off how cool Notion is as well. For me, I just have it as like a to-dos thing. So I've got these things, so it's very similar to the way ZenHub works in the fact that you can drag things from like the next up or upcoming whatever to in progress, and then to completed. You can add deadlines, all of that cool stuff. So it's really helpful as well. And since we're on Notion, we can have a look at what we're trying to get done right now. Where are we? Live session plan. So I think we're on 12 now. Am I just going crazy? No, we're on 12. Yeah. So essentially, we want to finish building our container wrapper. We want to, and obviously in doing that, we'll build up the navbar and footer. So basically, in doing the top thing, like we would have done these two as well, but I just wanted to kind of make it explicit. And also for the case that we like might not be doing them all simultaneously. So actually, it'd probably be more likely the case that we'd finish either the navbar and footer before we'd finish the page container wrapper, because those are included in it. So we have to make sure those two are done first, of course. So even if we get to like just doing the navbar today or just doing the footer today, that's cool. And really, like, the navbar is almost there. It's just depending on one thing which I need to add in, which is to add icon button styles. And now I can actually just swap these out and make this the more high priority one, because once we add those icon button styles and they're working, then that's pretty much like the missing piece of the puzzle to our navbar. Our navbar will be essentially, in terms of the actual UI, not the actual functionality, but the kind of look of things. We'll kind of have that ready. And so maybe I should be a bit more explicit with actually building the navbar. But then again, I feel like we can add some functionality there as well. So let's just see how we get on, and then we can then maybe decide on things. So yeah, we'll see how we do. So cool. Right. So let's open up our VS Code. I think. Cool. Right. Let me just close this down for now. Cool. Right, so cool. Right. So what I want to get going is what we kind of had yesterday, where we've got this got the code on one side and not that. We've essentially got this happening on this side. And yeah, we also made some commits as well, so that's nice. We've got a nice clean branch right now, and we're ready to make some more commits. So yeah, kind of aim of the game here, like I mentioned before, is like frequent commits, really. Atomic commits, we can call it. So let's just spin up our dev server and let's see where we're at with the building. Cool. Okay. So what I kind of want to do first, I think, yeah, would be, let's look at that. Let's start tackling this first issue, as I mentioned, and maybe it will be helpful to have our repo alongside this. So as I mentioned, we're going to aim to start tackling this nav menus not receiving focus issue, because it's a bug. So we want to get this kind of fixed as soon as we can, really. So what I'm going to start doing is just having a search for some potential solutions. Let's have a look at, so as we can see here on the left hand side, we've got this item component, and basically it takes in children, it takes in a href as props, and it passes the href to this next link component, which is basically like our navigation component. So if that thing is clicked, then it will navigate to whatever page. That works. We check that works fine. We can even have a look at it here. So I'm on homepage right now. If I click about, that homepage should change to about in good time, and so it does. And then to project or projects, and then blog. So that works fine. Should probably change it to projects. Oh, I don't know what happened there. So that works fine. But did that save? Yeah. So obviously it seems that the issue we're getting, because that works all fine, like I was mentioning with the keyboard navigation. So that's my first tab. It goes straight to this. It should go to home, actually. And we've got our skip to content button, which if we press enter, it will then skip down to this blog, which now becomes top of the page. So we've got that working, and straight after it should go to one of these elements, but it skips past that and goes straight to the button. So we need to kind of fix that behavior, because that's it's unexpected behavior as far as screen readers go. Or so I say it's assistive technologies. So let's see if we can fix this. I'm going to just do a quick look on. I'm going to just say maybe chakra link. Yeah, okay. Chakra link Next.js. That sound. I mean, that seems quite reasonable. So what we have here, as we can see, so we have someone that's made a comment saying that we should provide a proper recipe of how to integrate Chakra's link with Next.link, including the, have I turned the music down? Yeah, just making sure. Including the edge case of using a link within a menu item, which is the issue that we're having right now. We've got a menu item, we're using link essentially in that item, and it's causing this not to receive focus. Cool. Right. Okay. So we got someone that right, okay. Well that's a TypeScript error, so it might work for us. Okay. The potential fix might be in one forgotten prop, and I remember seeing this somewhere before. I don't know whether it was on the Chakra docs or not. Let's try this and we'll see how we get on. So let's try and pass the href. We don't need to add like anything after this. We just add that single value, and now let's test things. No, we're still skipping? Okay. Got it. Okay, it's here. So this was actually just something that could have been caught very easily that I missed out. It's as li. So for anyone that has used Chakra before, or yeah, I mean, even if you've used it like once or twice, you probably know that this link component is the equivalent to an A tag. And you'll probably know that passing in the as prop actually, and I mentioned this in the last stream, it doesn't give like any ARIA role or ARIA role or like anything like that. It actually changes that small I component. So like whether, let's say, I think the example we gave yesterday was that we had, I think, a heading, and we could set that as like H1 or H2 or H3. You know, you can set it as all of these different HTML elements, and you can do this with any component. It's not always the best practice, for some things. You know, you still have to kind of keep things within context and make logical decisions around that. Here, obviously, it felt like a logical decision at the time because I was trying to write code fast. But what I missed out actually was the fact that really, essentially, this should not be this. So the reason why it wasn't actually focusing was because, well, it was rendering as a list item, which isn't like wrong. But the link itself, we were trying to link away, shouldn't be a list item because essentially, like, that's not navigating anywhere. Obviously, the way we're navigating is through this next link. So when we click on this item, we're clicking on, like, we are generating that route, that sort of this changing of routes, like the href works. That all works fine because, you know, that's inside this item component. But the whole point is that we're supposed to pass that ref onto the link and allow the link to do its work. And so it can't do that if it's an if it's an li, if it's a list item. So we have to keep it as an a tag. So if you watch and I save it here, although they're not explicitly list items now, I should be able to tab through. As you can see, we can now tab through. So that's my bad. I hold my hands up. So what we now need to decide is like how we can essentially like have it so that we're rendering this list item. And I feel like I'm going to hold on to that. We might need that. What maybe we might do for now is just to have a box. My bad. I'm just going to do something quickly. Don't want to lose that. Excuse my typing. Okay, so there we go. We're navigating across pages. We can also check the semantics of this and make sure that things are rendering how we're expecting. So you can look here. We've got a div, but inside that div we should have a unordered list, which we do, which should have list items, which we do, and each of those list items should have an a tag, which they do. And so, you know, that's just a way to check things are working. We can also at some points, like sort of getting further into the week, maybe look at, you know, doing some testing in React testing library to check for these things, to check that these things are in the DOM, just to add that sort of added confidence that we are like rendering the correct HTML tags. But for now, you know, we can look in the dev tools and debug things manually that way. So very sweet. It's a bit much for me, that. Right, so that's all working good. Okay, so that's great. Cool stuff. So we'll get back to that issue and closing it and stuff a bit later on. But let's just, you know, we'll take a mental note that we've ticked that off now. So that's all good. So like I said, the open graph meta tags, that's something to consider later, especially in terms of content. You know, we have to, or we can give it an image, which I will have to decide on or create. So yeah, we're going to leave that to later. So next, really, the main thing, like I mentioned before, was to add our icon button variant. So let's jump to the design file, and I'll just show you what I've been up to just before the stream. Haven't really done much work on it at all, but what we've done essentially is just we've come and added another variant into the Figma file. So essentially, so that kind of moves around. Essentially, what we're doing with variants is we can just keep, like, we can add them, which is really nice, a really nice feature. So as you can see, I just added like another variant there. We can drag it across, and then I can kind of give it some different props. So what you can do when you add a variant is, if I go back up here, you can add like these different properties on it. So when we first created these buttons, our default properties were size, type, and state. So we had our main two types, which were primary and secondary. Now we've got a third type, which is icon, right? So like, and I was going to make a with icon one. So like you'll see here on the end, we have, if I can find it, we have this with icon, but actually really that shouldn't be a state. That should actually just be a type, because every button with an icon is going to have a default state. It's going to have a hover state. It's going to have a focus state. It's going to have a disable state. So I didn't really do much thinking around that. And then I kind of came to the realization that that probably should be the case, but that's fine. You know, we don't have to worry about that too much right now. It's not, I wouldn't say it's an urgent thing, because of the fact that there's not going to be, as I'm like thinking about things right now, there's going to be like a massive amount of use case for that. I do have some ideas of using icons within buttons, within text. I mean, alongside text. So it definitely is a consideration that we will have, and we will definitely look at creating that component explicitly. But for now, I'm just happy to kind of view this and be like, okay, cool, that's how that might look. But right now, you know, we're interested in using a icon button, so it makes sense for us, you know, for this to be our primary kind of design consideration. And so what we can do with variants, what I mentioned was that we can now change these different things. And when we add variants, so as you saw, I added a variant there, and that duplicated this. So by default, we can't do this. Figma gives you a warning about it. It says the properties and values of this variant are conflicting, meaning that another, like, it's likely that another component has like the same types. And it says change the apply values on this variant to resolve this. It also says it for the other one that's duplicated, I believe, or does it not? It should. Yeah, it does. So we can change it on this one because this is what we're interested in. And what's nice as well, which I really like, is that you don't have to go and just create like this new type. You can just type it in, and if it didn't exist before, it does now. That kind of approach is what they do. So before we just typed in icon, and we got that as a new type. And so the type is fine. This will stay the same across all of the components we're creating right now. But let's, you know, we want this to be a hover state. So what we can now do is go from default to hover, and you can see now that it's no longer conflicting. If we go back from hover to default, it's now conflicting. And so it's really nice because it kind of just tells you where like you're overriding things, or like where you've got duplicate styles, and you can then go in and fix that. This is the hover state. We're going to want this hover state, you know, we're going to want some visual kind of change here. I'm just going to add a very subtle difference. And we can actually preview this. And this is what I like, honestly, this is what I really love about Figma. What I'm going to do before I do this is publish this, because it'll make it easier to actually be able to take our components and view them. So I'm going to do the lab. Yeah, all right, let's go into the lab. I don't know, I like giving it these weird creative names. The lab, playground, all of these things. So we go to our assets now. We should have... So in our buttons, we'll grab a button quickly. So as you can see now, if we look at the types, we now have icon. So that's really cool. We've got a default icon. That's what he looks like. And then if we go to the... So we can go to the state default. We can go to hover as well. So we've got both those states. So what I'm going to do is create one of those. I'm going to just duplicate the guy. Maybe we can put it like in a frame or something. That's massive. Cool. And let's do the same. Oh. Oh, okay. So let's have this guy as the hover. And here's what's really cool. So we can just create a really quick prototype just to demonstrate what it looks like when you hover over an element. So what we can do is, like with this really quick prototyping tool, is that you just select prototyping off the top here, and you can just create some very basic transitions and animations on how we move from one page or state to another. So we've got this first element, we add this plus symbol, and we're going to say, like, when something happens to this thing, navigate to this frame or page. And then in this interaction details little tab, we can then describe what we want what event we want that action to be taken on. So you can have it on click. What we are interested on is while hovering. So we can select that, navigate to frame 2. We've got instant, but we want to give it a bit more of like a nicer visual smooth feel. So what we can do is we can like either do a dissolve, we can do smart animate is cool as well, but we'll get into that later. So you've got all these different what they called like timing functions. So ease in, ease out, ease in and out, which I like, which you can just use that one, and it shows you as well, which is really nice. Great feature. And you can also preserve scroll position as well if that's a feature that you would need. For now, we're just going to leave it like this. I think it should be all right. So when we're ready to kind of view this, we can hit the play button up here next to the share button. And what I'm going to do is make this full screen. And then you can see when we hover. So now we're literally previewing what that like hover state's going to look like in our app. We're doing that in Figma before we've even written a line of code, and that's what I really love about how quick and interactive Figma is for just, you know, really quickly fleshing out a prototype and getting an idea of, you know, how these different states are working, these hover states, these active, you know, focus, disable states, error states. You know, we can actually have a look at this in Figma and make decisions based on that. But that looks cool to me, and we can now go back to where we were at before, so our component library. And so we're cool with that now. We've tested that out visually, and we're all happy with that. So now we can go on to create the next variant. So what I'm going to do, so as you can see, every time we click on like one of the components, one of the top level components, we'll get this plus sign. I'm just going to go back to this one and add it, so it adds like a duplicate of that. We can just drag him over, and let's now add that that border around it. So if we, I believe it's in, let me just dismiss that for a second. So you can go add a stroke. I think I might be a level. Am I the wrong level down? Outside? Yeah. Okay, that's what we want. We don't want inside. We want outside. So what we can do now is we can go to this now and add our focus state. So as you can see in our accents, we've got focus, and we want that to be. Oh, my bad. Sorry, I'm not supposed to be on rounding. Okay, that doesn't work the way we expect. So let's have a look at these guys. Right. So it's got 3. We're outside. 3 outside and 2. to me. So again, we're getting that error, so that's just telling us we need to change this, which we will. So that's 3. Might be a bit much. I think 2 might be better. Anyway, that's cool. So we can see that quite nicely, and yeah, we can see that in the code when we go to view it as well. So that's cool. That works. And is there anything else that I need to do? Cool. Cool. Oh damn, I keep accidentally resizing this. So what I want to do now is create like a disabled button. So if again I do the same thing. Oh, actually before we go on, yes, that's what we need to do. We need to make sure that we update this. So the state we can now change to focus. Now we can change the default to a disabled state. No. Okay. Nice. Okay, so let's do the same thing. Maybe this time we'll do the naming first, so we don't forget. So we'll have this as the disabled state, and all we need to do now is just kind of go in and look at these styles. So 2, 300, just get some inspiration and some ideas for that. So what's this? I want to know what that is. Yeah, I don't really actually know. Okay, so that's some cool disabled stuff. Cool. Then they're not in line, but it's like it's okay. What happened here then? Okay, I think that's all right. I think we're good. Right, so what are we looking like time-wise? Okay, coming up on an hour, so I think we've made some decent progress. We'll keep going for like a little bit more, and probably call it a night. But yeah, let's keep pushing this and see how far we can get. So I'm just gonna check the. Nice. Okay. Cool. Nice, okay. Just checking notifications are coming through well and stuff. Okay, we're all good. Alrighty. So, one thing actually, just bear with me. I need to just ensure my cam isn't playing up. Yeah, that's no good. Get some more of this. Wow, the tiredness is kicking in now. So maybe it's going to be a game of willpower. Who knows? Hopefully, I'll just get a random burst of energy and start flying through this work. Right, now let's get on with things. Okay, so I'm happy with that. We can like push on now. I think and start to look at taking things into code. So. Yeah, we're cool with that. Okay. So what we can do, I think the sort of simplest way to do this really is to have a variant the same way. And again, I mentioned this quite a few videos ago now. But you can go back, you can look, you can check out the chapters on YouTube and just find the bit you're looking for. But essentially it will be something around how we set up the button styles and how we sort of style different variants to allow ourselves later to then go and like call these different or pass in these different variants as props. That gives us access to, you know, these different styles based on our Figma file. So for each of, like, you know, whether it's primary default, secondary default, primary hover, focus, or disabled, or secondary, we essentially have access to all of these as like their own like little body of CSS in the same way that we do in Figma, which is what I really like about having this like seamless workflow where Figma is the single source of truth. In the code, we're just taking values from what we set in Figma. I think that's sort of the easiest way to work with, you know, the design to code process. It's the path of least resistance where, especially when you're working on teams, you know, I think you'll be having less arguments on what's what because you can just refer to that single source of truth. If there are changes that are needed to happen, then obviously that will be discussed probably as a team, and then you can kind of go forward from there. But it always comes back to having this design file as a single source of truth, and that's the way I'm approaching this. Is that, you know, I'm looking to here, like, I'm looking to my Figma file for, you know, those values. I'm not just deciding on the fly like, okay, I think that button would look cool if it was this size actually. No, I've kind of already made these decisions beforehand, and so we can, you know, be sure that when we're doing these things in the code that we are referencing that design file. And like I said in an earlier video, what would be really cool is if we were to integrate it with the API so that as we update our Figma file, we can also update our styles. I'm looking into this and I know it's definitely doable. I'm just kind of, I haven't got much experience in terms of like writing scripts, because I know there's a way you can write scripts to generate that CSS based on values you get back from the Figma API. And I did a little test actually, just working with the Figma API, and I was managing to get some values back actually from my color styles. So that was really interesting. That was cool and quite straightforward actually as well. So I think that would be like a nice to have of this project would be to kind of refactor the whole theme to allow some kind of integration between our code and our Figma file, but we'll kind of see how it goes and make those decisions at a later point. So let's get into it. And what do we want to do in terms of building? Do we want to use Storybook? Do we want to just go off what's here? Well, I'll tell you what we can do. I think. Do you know what? We use Storybook for this. So let's try and stick with that. So what I'm going to do is just run yarn Storybook, and we will set up our Storybook environment ready to start looking at these different things. So let's have a look. Recipe. Yeah, so we figured that out. That was my bad. That was my bad. We'll give that a second to load up. And in the meanwhile, I don't really know how to like organize this anymore, because like once you create variants, it just goes off and does its own thing. Did that just auto layout itself? Give me 1 second, guys. I will be right back. Just gonna answer a call. Right.
Kisses that once in a lifetime.
Right, apologies. We're back. So I was looking at, Storybook. Let's get straight back into it. So we've got our own style guide down here. So we've got our primary button, our secondary, our primary themed, and our secondary themed, which is just really nice. And we've got the light and dark mode, which we can preview. It's like really funny. You can see the little flicker where it turns to light mode and then back to dark mode. I'm guessing that's something to do with the to do with the integration between Storybook and Chakra. But it's fine. That's, it works. So let's have a look at creating another type of button, which I mentioned, which will be. And by the way, just for anyone that's wondering, we haven't got the primary themed in the Figma file. It would absolutely make sense to have that in there. So that's another thing to add to the backlog, the design backlog, I suppose, if we wanted to split up our concerns. But yeah, again, that will be something that I'll kind of do once I've got a bit more time, just because like the base styles are set, so it's only like a color change, and I sort of, that's enough to keep track of mentally, and we've got it documented in Storybook now. But just for the purpose of actually documenting this in the initial design file, it kind of makes sense. So I will be doing that at some stage. But let's look at creating this icon button. So we looked before at, I'm going to jump back into the code. We looked before at, I'm just going to get rid of these for a minute and get into our stories, our button.stories.js. So we looked at having this base template where essentially all it is just rendering out the button, which is fine. But obviously we could extend it to do more than this. We could have a bunch of default styles. Obviously we've already actually created this in the components in the theme in the button.js file. We've already set these base styles, so that's fine. We just wanted to add button as the text that's going to show up in each of these, so we don't have to change that text. It just stays the same. I could change this to like yo, save that, and it's going to be the same in each of our stories. Because of how we're using our args, we're using like the rest spread thing to send all of those primary args on onto the next components, and then add any additional arguments or like props that we pass in ourselves. So, and essentially what we're passing is just a variance basically. So what we want to do for this next one now is to set one for like specifically for the icon. And basically what I'm going to do here, it's going to be kind of weird. Okay, so it's because it's not really going to make sense right now, but we can say, we can just call it icon, right? Yeah. So this is kind of like template.bind. And then what we want to do is that we want to say icon.args equals an object. We do the rest spread of too many times. Primary .args, and then we can pass in these things. What we're going to do is just going to say variant is going to be icon. I'm not going to save it yet because we actually haven't created that variant yet. So this is where we're working between, and this is what we're doing quite often with things that are theme related, or when we're wanting to check this in just an isolated environment that isn't our development server, which is obviously here. We could just check this against this button here and do it that way, but I just find that it's a lot more quicker if we're, and a lot more like interactive if we're using Storybook to just do this. So we set up the boilerplate, if you like, in a Storybook, and that's going to allow us to see the changes once that's set in the button.js file, which I mentioned as well. The button styles are kept. So now we can start to add to this. Just to kind of run through this again, because it's been a little while, we've got our base style. So this is what the default button looks like. So in Figma, what this, like, when we call this button variant from our assets, I say cool, when we add it, when we add it from our variants, this default button that we see here, that's the same idea that we're creating in code here with this base style object. We're just giving it a bunch of props that it will render with. If we're just to call that button with nothing, with no props, no additional props, it will have these as default. We've got different sizes, so this takes into account the font sizes and the padding of the buttons, and the same way we kind of do it in Figma. It's just kind of coupling up those values and presenting those as sizes. It makes things easier for us when we are, and again, it maps to, I should probably just keep this up here. It maps to on the right here where we see this size, large, medium, small, right? So that's cool. And then we've got variants. So we've obviously set these variants where we're displaying them. Primary, secondary, primary themed, and secondary themed, and you can see them all here. And so the next one on the list that we want to add is going to be our icon button. I'm going to guess that we're going to need some light and dark mode stuff. So what we're going to do is we're just going to say icon, and then we're going to pass in props. And that's going to be a function. Cool. So we'll start with the background. And as always, we do props.color mode. So if it's light, and this is where, again, we can now actually just bring in our Figma file. Oh, let's just get our bearings first. Okay, what's going on? Okay. Let's bring this in. Oh, my bad. Cool. Some good beats in this playlist. I'm going to have to add these to my smaller, more focused playlist. I'm kind of just listening to this really massive playlist of what claims to be no DMCA songs. So what I'm doing is just taking my favorites and adding them to like a smaller playlist that I'll play consistently in streams. But for now, we're just kind of getting a general idea of all these different beats that I can use. So yeah, okay, back to this. So yeah, let's kind of like look at this now. So what I'm going to do actually is just come back over to here now, and we'll look at what we're concerned with. So like I said, what's nice is that we can actually see what's on here. So by default, and this is where obviously, yeah, we should really have like a light mode and a dark mode thing, but for now we can infer that, and then create it in Storybook, and then from that we can then update our Figma file. So I suppose that's a nice thing about this kind of flow is that it's kind of like, I don't think backwards compatible is the right word, but like it allows you to reverse the process and actually say, okay, we've updated like the design in Storybook, because, you know, here we're having to think about dark mode now, even though we should have thought of it before, but like, you know, maybe now we're actually, you know, testing things out and seeing things visually and interactively. We can actually see that on dark mode, this value is probably better than this value, or it kind of looks more visually pleasing, and it's more accessible maybe. Even though you can check that in Figma, you know, perhaps you get to the point where you're only just checking that through the accessibility plugin in Storybook. You can then go back and change that in Figma, and that's kind of what I like about having this like back and forth workflow between Figma and Storybook. Obviously, it's like from Figma to like it's from design to code, but it's happening through like these two tools between Figma and Storybook. I think they just integrate like really nicely, especially when it comes to thinking about things. So, without kind of going on any more about that, let's start to set out these styles. So we've got the icon variant now, and we're just taking styles from this Figma file. That's, you know, it's just as simple as that. So we're just going to say, okay, the background on light, we want it to be neutral 100. That's what we've got on the right side down here. We can see that. Actually, you can't because I'm covering it. But I promise we do. Might actually be helpful just to kind of... Oh, that's the wrong window. Hey Figma, do you want to resize or nah? I don't really think it's wanting to resize or anything. I don't think it does actually. That's kind of interesting, but it also makes sense. Okay, anyway. It's there, right? We can see neutral 100. So I'm just doing it. I'm just doing that. So you probably won't see those changes when it comes to colors because I'm in the way, but that's cool. So neutral 100. Otherwise, give us. So we're thinking for the background for dark mode. I'm gonna go with neutral 700, and then we can visually test that, and like, you know, we can see visually if that, you know, will suffice as a background color for dark mode. So that's kind of, yeah, that's okay. We need to add a comma for the next thing, which is color. So color again, props dot color mode. Thanks for correcting me. Okay, so again, light. So here we're gonna have a kind of like default dark. Ooh, default dark, and then we can just have default light, like just standard. And what else are we concerned with? And then we're concerned with obviously hover. So the hover state, which we can now jump to next. But before we do that, let's just actually have a look at these. Let's not get ahead of ourselves, right? Let's save you so that we've got the icon variant now set. And now let's save this. So we can overwrite. Obviously, we can overwrite things. We can overwrite the children. So this is what I like. This is what I really like. We can come in and so see that check circle icon that we used earlier. We can come in and actually say, I think we can do this. We can say we want the children actually just to be this icon. We can put a comma there to stop that shouting at us. Save it. Open Storybook. Back up. And now if we go down to our icon, you can see now we've got that nice check mark, and we've got the like box around it. You can't really see it that well. Okay, no, you can see it a bit. Actually, that comes up better on the stream than it does on my screen right now. So I think maybe we can tell. We can make this more obvious, of course, if we want, by maybe doing like a neutral 200. So we're just using a slightly darker shade. And look at that, that change is just reflected just so quickly. And I personally just prefer this, just to have something very, very, very subtle. But then when we hover on it, it then darkens. And so we can do that right now, and then test that straight away. So we can say underscore hover. Again, props.color mode, and let's just say if it's light, then we want it to be neutral 200. Else, what would it be like on dark mode? Get gradually like slightly lighter. Like, and we can just incrementally do this. I like it. It's not like a massive thing. So we can maybe try that and see how we get on. I didn't do that correctly. My bad. I was gonna say like, wait, I'm not like, what value am I changing? Sorry, hover is an object. So let's say bg props.column mode. That's much better. So let's save that up. That's all saved up, and now we hover. You can see now. And then if we turn the lights off and hover, so we've got Chakra's default transition. Obviously, we can create these transition values ourselves. I'm actually going to be doing this at some point as well, so that'd be nice. But that's that's something as well to add to the backlog. I've got it on my Notion backlog. I mentioned earlier that I kind of have split things up into like more personal tasks that I just things I need to get done, you know, just design wise and things to just help us, in terms of actually bringing together this complete style guide. So yeah, things to do with design and project management, you know, that I just have in my separate Notion folder. But then there's more like code specific things that we can open up to other people contributing, which will all be on sort of GitHub. And obviously there's things that are intended for myself, but then, you know, if people want to contribute, they can do that. It's another very nice beat as well. So yeah, we're getting somewhere now with this. So yeah, got that nice hover. And now we can actually have a bit of confidence with this now that so the only other thing, so when that's active, yeah, that's fine. That's actually working quite nicely. As you can see the focus style as well. So that's nice. If you click on it, you can see the focus style. And so let's actually let's have a look. So what we're going to want to do now is come into our, I'm not going to close them down yet. We're going to come to this, sorry, it's not index, is it? It's the actual container component. We're going to come up here to our, where is it? Oh yeah, navbar. Okay, so we're here. We want to come to this bit here, so this icon button. All we need to do really is switch the variant to being what was it again? Icon. It should work out for us. So if we get rid of the border for now, yeah, and just save that up. There we go. And I'm going to change the I thought the moon would look good outlined, but I actually personally prefer it how it looks in Figma, and I'm going to go with that. I'm going to stick with it. Is it? I've imported something wrong. Is not defined because I haven't actually defined it. I mean, not defined it. I haven't changed it in the code. Where are we? I mean, I like the sunny outline thing. Okay, that's much better. Yes, that looks good. Cool. We're cool with that. And if we look back in our Figma mockup that we were looking at yesterday, we can actually see, yeah, actually, we can just look here. Yeah, that much better resembles that, but that's not actually what it's looking like. This is what it's looking like. So we can see that right there. And then we can go and look at our code and see that we've got some nice similarity now. We've got the hover as well. We can change it to dark mode. We've got some nice hover stuff going on. So it works well, works nicely. Let's have a look at some other stuff before I start rounding off. I'm going to be just heading off shortly. I might actually even potentially restream later. I said restream, just stream again actually, because we're obviously going to keep this up. yeah, I might jump back on things later, depending on how tired I am. We'll see how it goes. Otherwise, I'll just kind of leave it to for tomorrow. But I'm just gonna have a look at the sort of things we wanted to get done. So we've added those icon button styles. Now we can tick that off, and that was the essential piece for sort of. Yeah, I don't think build navbar was the kind of right term. I think it's probably best to say to actually build out the basic styling of it. There's still some things we have to consider about the navbar in terms of like responsiveness. So how's this going to look on mobile? I mean, this is cool. This would be fine, but personally, I kind of prefer what I've got in the Figma file. And like I said, I'm always going off this. We can extend this again now. If I come over to the mobile view, this is the kind of idea I have for it. This is what I had for my last portfolio, and I just thought it kind of worked well to have just allow ourselves to have a menu which we can open up, which is nice. And I'm still doing a bit of thinking around this, which is why I'm not building this functionality yet in as far as the mobile styling goes. But let's have a look at this. So two things I was really inspired by was Vercel's like mobile menu. I thought was cool how it kind of just opens up this. We won't have a look at it right now, maybe a different time, but I just, this screenshot's enough. So this is what it looks like when it's opened. And yeah, I don't know, for me, it's just really nice. It's just a very clear way of seeing all of the different pages, all of the different routes that you can go down as a user. And it displays them in a way where you can sort of filter through and find what you need. And it's just very straightforward, especially for where you have like a lot of routes. We don't obviously have that much in comparison to that, but yeah, I think in the last project, I kind of mentioned this, but I think I ran into a little bit of difficulty with because it was entirely it was using client side routing like entirely, so we run into problems with how we created the it was kind of more of how we created the menu when we sort of had it on mobile. So I'm definitely putting a lot more thought into it this time around. But this is like another nice example. This Stripe. So this is from Stripe. This is their menu, which I just think is so cool. So like this is a modal, which is nice. And yeah, I don't know. We'll kind of see how it goes. But I'm going to do some thinking around this week for sure as we're building things out. So that's that really. Cool. So yeah, the footer as well we need to kind of consider, and yeah, there needs to be some thinking done around sort of how we're gonna like display each thing. Yeah, we'll figure that out anyway. We'll figure that out for sure. Let's see what else we might need to do. I'm glad we kind of fixed those key issues. So we've added the icon button styling now. We've fixed the menu items not receiving focus, which were our two main things. So that's nice. Cool. Okie doke. So yeah, we can check our storybook and see how things are running there as well. I'm just curious, can we change the variant as well? Yeah, we can change the variant as well. That's pretty cool, right? So, if we wanted to, for whatever reason, we could, yeah, of course we can change the variant, which is just super handy stuff. We actually can change the size as well, which is, because it's dependent on font size and padding, like it will just dynamically expand or contract, which is nice. So you can have secondary themed as well. And like in the same way, you have those hover states already configured because we did that separately. We can check accessibility. So yeah, here we don't have discernible text. Or it's empty, okay. So that's in storybooks. So what we can, what we need to do as well in these storybooks, just to ensure that we are, you know, making things that are accessible, because we haven't got any text in here, because the children is just that circle icon. What we can actually do, I'm just curious actually as to, yeah, we wouldn't add it on that. We would add it on the icon button. So we actually wouldn't do that either. Maybe it would be like ARIA label like that. Oh, we can't use a hook like that, can we? Okay. So we can't use that. Let's try it like this. So I'm just saying toggle color mode. We just make it a generic one. Let's save that and see if that fixes accessibility violation. No, it doesn't. And it's not going to let us. It's not going to let us do that. Can we pass it as a string? I don't know if this kind of thing works. I've got a strong feeling that it doesn't. That's what I'm going to say. I'm going to bet that it doesn't work. Maybe I'm wrong. Oh no, I am wrong. It does work. Okay, so that's how we pass in an ARIA label. So that's another useful bit of information there regarding checking for accessibility in our stories. Is to make sure that you are still passing through the same props that you would pass through on the actual component itself, because obviously that's the best way to check for things. There's no point in checking for the accessibility if you're not adding all of the props that you would have on that component if you know you were using that in the page, as we just saw. So we've got to make sure the ARIA labels and things like that are in there as well. As for configuring it to in terms of using logic, because obviously we were changing the message depending on color, light and dark mode. We'd have to do a bit more work around that. Maybe create a function here, because we need a function that that's what will allow us to use that hook, as we can't use them outside functional components. So yeah, again, I'm sure there's definitely ways around that, but for now, like, we'll be happy with this. This is cool. And we get instant feedback that things are passing. Always good to see. So that's cool. Let me. Okay. Also, eventually I'm going to want to change the hover styles for this as well. Again, that's something that we'll just look at a different point. But generally, you know, things are looking all right. Not too bad at all. So what we obviously want to start doing now is, what we would want to start doing is to create our footer component, which you can see here. And okay, just thinking of the best way to go about this. So let's have a look at our Figma file. Actually, this might help us to better think things out. So if I just drag these along side by side for a moment. So essentially what we've got here, like let's look at the mobile. So on the mobile version, obviously we've got just the icons. We would have like some array labels on them just to tell you what, just give some context around what icon is what, you know, and what, like where they're, so like where they'll link you to. And then on this, obviously we have the names and the icons. So we have the icon of the thing and the actual name. And then obviously we have our page routes as well. So we've got our main page routes, home, about, projects, and blog, and then we've got some additional ones. These are they're kind of ideas. You know, there's nothing set in stone. But obviously it would be cool to have like a page maybe just dedicated to the newsletter. We are having it as a feature on the home page for sure, but maybe there's some additional information that we can give, or like a way to kind of better like market that feature to users to maybe sign up. You know, there's some like additional bits of content that we can add into that. So that's kind of the idea behind that. The uses page is always like a nice one to have, you know, just to show people the tools you're using, software and hardware wise. And then something like a guest book, I don't know, is quite a common thing that people have on their personal sites. You know, maybe something along those lines could be cool, or something different. But I just thought it would be nice to populate this middle bit with some like more of like almost hidden paths. I mean, they aren't necessarily hidden, but they're just not up here in our main nav. So we can have a look at some spacing stuff. So let's have a look at how this looks in general. Okay. What I want to do actually is I want to set up some breakpoints. What I'm going to do this just in the standard theme file. I'm just going to say const breakpoints. Just going to create an object here, and I'm going to just look at Chakra's documentation for this, because they do have some good documentation around it. Breakpoints, and they show you how to set breakpoints accordingly. So I think it's somewhere here. Let's just find that quickly. Let's go to the next one. There we go. Thank you. Okay, so yeah, we can. Okay, so we've got Chris create breakpoints. Cool. Maybe we can, yeah. Let's try doing that then. So I thought it was just defining breakpoint. Okay, so okay, breakpoints equals create breakpoints is what we're create. Okay, I see how we can do this now. So then we can pass it into the theme afterwards, I think. So let's say small. So what we're going to do, we're going to keep things mostly the same, because I'm happy with their defaults. Maybe a few adjustments might be needed at some point, but for now we'll just leave it. Large. So this is all like fine. 80. Excel is ATM. But what I want to do is just add a breakpoint specifically for my own computer, which I don't think they have. But 2XL is 9, so we can just do M2 PX. Just want to have a quick look at what 96 is. Is it 96? 1536, okay. So maybe we do 1440 and then 1920, maybe something like that. So whatever 1440 is. So we'll just say 90 actually instead of 96. 90, yeah, so we'll do 90 instead of 96. So we'll just say 2XL. It's 90 EM. And then we can just say 3XL. Triple XL is going to be 1920. 120. Which is 120 EM. Then what we can do is we can just add that into. Cool. Okay, try that. Hey, theme, you're not happy with that? We all good now? Okay, thank you. So what I can do, I'm just gonna, in the container actually, just gonna look at one of the top level thingies. Let's do it on this box. This is like a really nice way to check, by the way, your breakpoints I found. We can use the object syntax. So with the object syntax, basically, it takes an object. I think is that how we do it? Yeah. Where you obviously have base, you've got small, you've got medium. So base is everything from 0 up into that first breakpoint. So that small breakpoint, that was 30M. So it's everything from 0 up to 30M. Is it going to refresh for us? Are we good? No, it's not happy with that. Sorry, I haven't been watching the errors. That's my bad. So what's going down here? Oh yeah, of course. We didn't define create breakpoints. We didn't bring that in from theme tools. Have we even imported that? I don't know. Let's see if we've got that. Ah, so we need to install that. Okay. Or is it in check UI React now? Is that right? Oh. Still can't fetch it. I can't actually remember. Like I think. I just wanted to see if we have access to this. Guessing maybe we don't. Or maybe we do. I mean, it looks like we do.
Well, I came upon a spot that was simply the most beautiful spot I'd ever seen in my life.
Let's run that again.
If I didn't have the power, I would build a house there.
Oh, okay.
When I was a kid, I wanted a house in the mountains.
I don't know. I've got a feeling that it's just not going to work again, but it's cool. It's cool if it doesn't. No, we're good. Okay, so we do have access to it. It's just not available for some reason when we go to import, but that's fine. Okay, what we can do, what I was saying before my theme rudely interrupted me. Let's get rid of this, these unnecessary components. So let me go back. Yeah, one thing I really like to do is just to have this object syntax, which basically it's kind of like our own inline media queries. So like I said, base is everything from 0 to small, and then we go up like that, which obviously we defined here. So we can say, I'm not really interested in base. I'm just interested in, well, for now anyway, I'm interested in, I think I would have, let's have a look. Yeah. 3XL. And on 3XL, I would like, yeah, all right, green 200. I mean, that's randomly suggesting that for me. Maybe not there. Maybe under our head. Yeah, maybe here. Oh, I suppose that it's not full screen, is it? Let's try that. There we go. And I'm going to show you something cool, even cooler than this. So this is what I like to do just to make sure that my media queries are working as expected. Because sometimes, you know, things for whatever reason might not, might be a bit unpredictable. Say blue 200. And then we can just use normal syntax, like let's say, I don't know, yellow 200, large, oh, cannot spell. I'm getting well ahead of myself right now. Is blue 500, and then yeah, let's just leave it there. Okay, so if we go like that, we can do that. But what's cool, if I just, you can see now, if I start to drag this out, we should get some changing colors. Blue, yellow, blue, green, green, because that's now full screen. So now we know that those breakpoints are actually working the way we set them. They're working the way we set them, so that's cool. It's just a nice way to check your breakpoints and check your UI, just if you're kind of curious about whether things are working or not. So that's all checked. Yeah, I didn't actually think about that, but you know, it just crossed my mind that actually I do want to set my own custom breakpoints. I mean, we've kept most of them. It's just I want one for my screen, just because, you know, that's how I'm going to be viewing it. So it makes sense to have this added bigger breakpoint. So we can get rid of that now. We don't need it. Save that up. And cool, nearing 2 hours again. Nice. Okay, so I'm gonna start rounding up here. So yeah, we've looked at quite a bit actually. I feel like this has been quite a productive stream. We've actually got stuff done. Not that we haven't in the other ones, but I feel like we've had a bit more of like a rhythm with this. So that's great. And yeah, things are looking good so far. You know, there's a bit more work to do in designs. I think I might maybe spend the rest of the evening doing that, just kind of looking at designs and sort of looking at how we can make these designs better, and also doing a lot of thinking actually around composition. As you can see here, you know, we've got these two different nav bars. We've got one in which you've got this order of the menu first, and then we've got the logo, and then the color mode toggle button last, and then on the other hand we've got, you know, the logo and the menu swapped around, and just thinking a bit more about that, and how, you know, if there's any ways that we can work with this without having to sort of reinvent the wheel, but then actually looking at the use case of potentially, you know, would it actually be better to, you know, so it's kind of like dry or wet here, you know. Are we going with don't repeat yourself, or are we going with write everything twice? Because in my last project, I actually went with the dry, and I don't know if I'd say it didn't really necessarily like introduce any like problems or difficulties that I can really sort of say, but I definitely was thinking about it afterwards, like on whether it felt good, and I wasn't too sure, like if that felt too good, and whether it actually would have costed much to just have duplicated that code. Excuse me. So yeah, I mean, you know, we'll be looking at that anyway, and I think we'll make some decisions. Either like in the next stream, I might get to that beforehand. Either, you know, if I do, I will update during the stream as always. And we'll also be looking at doing the same kind of similar thing with this footer, with just displaying some icons, but then also displaying the page routes and you know, I mean, at the moment for me, it just makes logical sense actually to have these as just separate things, just because they're quite different. I wouldn't say like massively different, but they're fairly like different in their layout, in you know, what content we have on each thing, and I think because of the fact that we're using icons and we're bringing in and they're very atomic like level components, you know, it won't cost much at all to just have our own small component that renders that maybe on the smaller screen sizes, and then when we get to these larger screen sizes, we have a different component that does all these things. So that's kind of my thinking around it. So that's kind of what I'll be up to essentially, and you know, maybe creating a couple more issues. But I mean, at the moment, right now, we're definitely solving more issues than we are creating them for the moment, I say, because that's definitely subject to change as we continue building out, which is a good thing, because I like having, you know, things to tackle on each stream. You know, I mean, past obviously having that sense of achievement, it's also kind of just nice to actually demonstrate how I usually go about problem solving these things, and also hopefully potentially in the future as well, to have have other people's input on how we can maybe approach things and start looking at things together. That would be really cool. So I'm going to round off here and kind of get on with doing more of the design stuff, which should hopefully help us to drive building this container even more, because I do want to start pushing on. It's Wednesday now, and by sort of Sunday, the aim is to have our container, so our navbar and our footer fully built out, and actually have our homepage also, or at least the basic layout, the basic features built out for ourselves. So that's the aim, and I think, you know, it's definitely doable. So what I'll be doing tonight is just working on the design side of things and just testing things out, doing a little bit of research as well. And then for tomorrow's stream, we'll be getting on to building the footer, and then we might as well be looking at making both the footer and the navbar responsive, and having these two different sort of functionalities depending on the screen size. And yeah, hopefully we can draw that to a close either tomorrow or on Friday, and then we can start building out that homepage over the weekend. So that's the kind of idea for going ahead. I'm actually going to update stuff in the ZenHub, it's for myself really, just to kind of have a general focused idea. But if anyone's interested in you know, in the actual project roadmap and the timeline, feel free to check that out if you're interested to see what, because I mean, it also gives you an idea of what will be coming next in streams as well. And also feel free to join the Discord, you know, which again, there'll be more updates. You'll find out when I'm going live, and there'll be definitely opportunities to even maybe meet in there as well, and chat through things there as well. That would be cool. Yeah, we're kind of building that up at the moment, and yeah, we've got a couple of people join now, so that's really cool. And yeah, it's just a nice space really, just for other people that are excited about web development to really just chat, share resources, and find out about when we're streaming and stuff. So yeah, thanks to everybody that watches this, and yeah, we will be back again in the next one, hopefully tomorrow, tackling building out the rest of this container page. So thanks so much, and yeah, catch everyone in the next one.